You don't get high fives. You don't get attaboys. Sometimes you'll get a nod as you leave the field. Hey, nice job. Or catcher will turn around and say, hey, really good today. Thank you so much. You'll get those. And those are very gratifying. Don't get me wrong. But the best gratification comes, and I mean this, is when you have a moment to reflect after you're done with the game or the series, whatever it is. And you're sitting there and you're having a moment, maybe in silence, or maybe it's just the banter of your crew. And you can reflect on that performance that you just had and go, I wouldn't change a thing. There's no more gratification than you can get from that. There's zero. Like, you're going to be challenged. You're going to have to get into a space of conflict management. You're going to have to embrace being uncomfortable, because we live in a digital world. These kids, they live off of these devices, right?
Sure do.
And the communication is through thumbs. It's not through one-on-one interaction with an adult. Okay? So if we're not setting them up for the realisms of officiating or umpiring, we're missing the boat, and we're going to lose them faster than we gain them. And so with BBUA, we take that opportunity, especially with people that we identify that got opportunities to ascend and to do better things than just live in the comp baseball space. And we teach them and we mentor them and we groom them that there's opportunities here. And you're lucky that you're working for this organization, because I know a guy that can help you in that process. The thing that I miss is the camaraderie, the banter, if you will, on spending a weekend with brothers and sisters. That's the biggest thing that I miss. There's nothing to replace getting on a plane, headed to a destination, a campus or whatnot, and being there with 2 other people and working a collegiate baseball game. A lot of fun that's involved in there, a lot of catching up. You get invested in their families and what's going on with them back at their respective homes and what they're doing, with their jobs or careers. You just get to know them on the personal level. Sometimes you get to experience, the city that you're in and maybe the cuisine or, historical things that are there.
And now, episode 17, letter O, opportunity. Join host Dana Pappas with special guest Billy Hayes on the From A to Zebra podcast.
Welcome back to the From A to Zebra podcast, and Happy New Year. We hope everyone had a wonderful holiday season. I'm Dana Pappas, and my co-host Nate Acosta is officiating basketball right now. I guess that's appropriate for the From A to Zebra podcast. So I'm really trying my best to hold down the fort, but it should be easy with today's special guest. On today's episode, we are covering the letter O, and our guest today will be talking about opportunity, something that there is certainly a lot of in officiating. Our guest today is Billy Hayes. He is the NCAA Director of Umpire Training for Baseball. Billy, thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Dana, thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to it, and nice job with the podcast. I've really enjoyed the episodes, and I think what you're doing is outstanding.
Thank you so much. We're enjoying it. Anytime Nate and I can talk to people about officiating, it's just, it's a happy day for us. It doesn't seem like work at all, because we all love this, and all of us can talk about it for hours on end. So we appreciate you being on and are looking forward to spending some time with you and hearing what you have to say about opportunity and really any other topic that we just delve into. So before we really dive into that topic of the day, can you just introduce yourself, tell our audience about your umpiring journey, how it began, how long you've been doing it, and how you got to where you are now?
Well, Dana, thank you. And I'll try to not belabor it too much, but I think the journey is important to kind of share where you started and kind of where you're at right now. And you'll definitely give a big smile. I started in the space of high school baseball officiating. That's where I started. Back in, I want to say somewhere around 1992, maybe 1993, in Fresno, California. I answered an ad in the Fresno Bee looking for high school freshman baseball umpires, literally. And I was a collegiate student. I just got done playing soccer at Fresno City College, and I needed to make some money. And I knew I played the sport, so you think, well, maybe you can officiate it. little did I know, but that's where I started my journey. And I got started with the San Joaquin Officials Association. And I may be messing that name up, but I know they know who I'm talking about there. And a good friend of mine named Phil Morelli was overseeing the program at the time, the high school program at the time, and the junior college, the CVC at the time, Central Valley Conference for junior college baseball, and also assigning umpires to games at Fresno State, which it's completely changed now, but that's what he was doing back in the day. And yes, I got started working freshman baseball. I remember going to my first meetings and walking into this big group of men. It was quite intimidating and overwhelming, but I stuck with it. I don't know what gave me the inclination to even want to do that, but I'm glad I did, because it's a 30-year journey that it got me to where I am right now. So I spent probably 2 years traveling all over the Central Valley, umpiring freshman and JV baseball games, and then got the opportunity in year 2 to start to work some of our varsity games in the area at the D4, D5 level. And one summer I was working I want to say it was like an 8th grade game. It was during school in the afternoon, and I was in Clovis, California. And between innings, I had a gentleman pull me over to the backstop, and he introduced himself as Rick Scarberry. And Rick Scarberry is a legend in Fresno, California. Everybody knows Rick Scarberry, and longtime collegiate baseball umpire at the Division I level. And he introduced himself and said, "Hey, doing a nice job. Mechanics are great, and you're very athletic." And he looked at me, and he was serious about this next question to me. He says, "What umpire school did you go to?" And I looked at him and I said, "I don't know what you're talking about." And he says, "Well, you look like you've been trained like professionally." And I said, "No, I've just been doing this the last couple of years." And he goes, "Well, go back and, finish your game. We'll talk afterwards. I'd love to chat with you." So I did, and we chatted afterwards. And Rick proceeded to tell me about professional umpire school. And at the time, there was 3 of them in Florida. And he knew how to get in touch with these people and whatnot. He goes, I'd really love to see you look into this." And I literally, Dana, I had no idea that there was professional baseball umpire school. I don't even know if at that time I knew that there was major league umpires or minor league umpires, just no clue. Very naive. And so we exchanged contact information. Obviously, he knew Phil Morelli really well, and so did I. And about a month or 2 down the road, I get this packet, this manila envelope from United Postal Service, and Rick Scarberry had gotten all 3 brochures put together from all the 3 schools, and he sent them to me with a little note and says, "Look into this. I think this might be something that could benefit you." And little did I know that how it would impact and benefit my life. I got entrenched in learning all about these schools and talked about it and listened and whatnot, and made a decision to attend the Harry Wendelstedt Umpire School in 1994. I spent probably a good 8 months, 9 months just working as much baseball as I could. I stopped going to school. I took a job with a investment farming group in the Central Valley. I worked 6 days a week, turn up enough money to go to umpire school. And I went in 1994, 3 umpire schools at the time. Wendelstedt Umpire School probably had closer to 250 students. And I was lucky enough to make it in the top 10 of that class in 1994. That included a major league umpire that's on the field right now, Jim Wolf, who's a good friend of mine. And from there, we were sent home for about a month. And then we returned to Florida, Cocoa Beach to be exact. That's where minor league baseball had their evaluation course. And at that time, I competed against 31 other gentlemen, including Jim Wolf, for positions in minor league baseball. So they took the top 10 students from each school. And there was an invite gentleman that came from Puerto Rico that year as well. And we competed for, I think it was 12 jobs in 1994. Got lucky, must have showed well. I got called into work professional baseball, as a rookie minor league baseball umpire. And I was assigned to go immediately to Tucson, Arizona, to the Colorado Rockies spring training. And from there, it was off and running. I spent 8 years in the minor league system, starting off in the Arizona Rookie League. Spent 1 year there, went to the Midwest League, spent 2 years in the Midwest League, was promoted to the California Long A is what they call it, or Advanced A now, I think it is. California League for 1 year. Got promoted to the Southern League, which is Double A, was there for 2 years, and then got promoted to AAA, the Pacific Coast League, and was there for 2 years. Lived in Arizona and Florida during my minor league career. Picked those two places because those are the spring training states for professional baseball, and it proved to be very good decisions. In 2000, I was awarded the opportunity to work a handful of Major League spring training games, kind of not as an official spring training umpire for Major League Baseball, but kind of like a minor league call-up, if you will. And it was just on necessity. There was a lot of injuries that were going into this 2000 season at the Major League level. And because I lived in Orlando, Florida, which was kind of like a central hub, I was contacted quite a bit and went and did quite a bit of games. Unfortunately, and not unrealistically, like many people, I just didn't make the cut and was released in 2001. And, spent a couple years trying to figure out what I was going to do with my life, like reinvent yourself. As officials, we're kind of, our marquee is what we do as umpires. We all have egos, and, I don't know any umpire that doesn't have one. And we're atypical personalities. So when you have something like that has identified you, it takes a little time to adjust to normal life. And I adjusted. I ended up moving back, moved away from Florida, moved back to California. And I want to say in 2004 or 5, that gentleman that I mentioned to you, Phil Morelli, who still resides in Clovis, California, was talking to my dad one day and catching up. And he said that Billy had moved back to California and he was working for UPS up in the Bay Area, and you should get a hold of him. Well, he did. And of course, the discussions got around baseball and umpiring. And he goes, have you ever thought about, getting into the college space? I didn't really think of it because my career was over, so really didn't think of it. Well, he talked to me enough. And at the time I was dating Denise, who is currently my wife now. And I used to tell stories about my umpiring days and how cool it was. And she'd do, like, your face would light up. And so she said, why don't you get back into it a little bit, see what it's like. So in 2005 or 4, I took Phil Morelli up on an invitation, and I worked some junior college baseball, about 10 games, I think it was in total. Not a lot. And I got invited that year from a guy named Jerry White, who used to run the junior college state championship for the state of California. And he asked me if I wanted to work the junior college Final Four. I didn't know anything about it. I had no clue that it even existed. Accepted that invitation. When I went there, I was around some folks that I kind of knew by name, didn't know by face. And I went in there without telling really anybody what I was about or my experiences. I just said I'd umpired before, and I did my thing for that weekend. And one gentleman named Ruben Chavera pulled me aside and says, listen, pal, I'm not buying that you've just done this a couple of times. I need to know who you are, what you're about, and I'm going to recommend you to a guy named Tom Heiler and a guy named Dale Williams. And I knew Tom Heiler because we were in the minor league system together. And, I said, well, what's Tom Heiler doing now? He says, well, he's the coordinator of umpires for the West Coast Conference, and Dale Williams is a coordinator of umpires for the Big West Conference, and you would be ideal to work in those two. I go, I don't know about this. This is moving a little too fast for me. And well, sure enough, those two guys called me probably 2 days later and said, hey, are you umpiring college baseball now? And I went, I don't know why. And then they proceeded to tell me all the places that you can go. And the money wasn't really that bad in the mid-90s, if you will, in the 2000s. And so I said, all right, well, maybe we'll do it on a modified schedule. And I'd gotten a promotion with UPS where I was working kind of nights. So I had weekends free. And I said, why not? Well, Dana, that was the caveat. It ballooned from there. And I ended up working that season and probably 18 other Division I seasons. And I worked Division II a little bit, but towards the end of my career, it was mostly Division I. And I ended up working in the Pac-12, Pac-10 at the time, turned into the Pac-12. And then towards the end of my career, I went to the East Coast and worked for the ACC as well. So 18 total years, Division I umpiring. Got into postseason with the NCAA in 2008. Was fortunate enough to work 12 regionals from 2008 to 2022, I believe. 7 super regionals and 2 Omahas in 2016, 2019. Very, I mean, pinnacles of my career, obviously, big deals, lots of fun. And during that time, I also was lucky enough to be able to interview for some coordinating positions. There was 2 NAIA conferences out here in California and Arizona that the positions came open for the coordinator of umpires with the GSAC and the CalPAC, and I interviewed for those and got the position. So I started to dabble into the administrative role while I was still on the field, which in retrospect was kind of a good thing because I always thought of getting into the administrative side of this and the mentoring, teaching side of this at some point in time. So looking back on those hires, that was a great way of introducing myself to the administrative, coordinating, mentoring, teaching side of things. And then the next year, the SCIAC opened up here in California. That's our D3 representation here in California. And I was lucky enough to land that position. So I became the D3 coordinator of umpires. And then 2 years ago, Tom Heiler announced his retirement from Division II with the CCAA and the PAC West. And so both of those coordinating positions were open, and I interviewed for both of those and was fortunate enough to get and land both of those, which was tremendous. So under my supervision right now, I have 5 conferences, 2 NAIAs, 1 D3 and 2 D2s that I coordinate umpires for. And it's wonderful. I got great representation. I've got great leadership at all of those conference levels with the commissioners and a great working relationship with those people. So I'm enjoying that space tremendously. And then the little curveball also Tom Heiler affected. Tom Heiler announced in 2021 that he was going to be stepping away from his position with the NCAA as the director of umpire training. And at the time, I had just, finished working a super regional at Mississippi State and was looking forward to maybe potentially going back to Omaha the next year, the year after that. My end goal with working postseason for the NCAA was to have the opportunity to be a crew chief at Omaha. That was kind of like the big pinnacle for me. But then Tom went and announced this, and I went, well, maybe this is the right time. And I had a son in 8th grade, and he was, he's heavily involved in baseball, does a lot on the weekends. I was kind of missing a lot of that with my on-field activity being gone, 15, 16, 17 weekends in a calendar year from February to June. And it was just the right timing. So I went for it, interviewed. There was great candidates. I got lucky and was awarded the position. So I've been in that role for 3 years now, going into my 4th. And it's wonderful. I get the opportunity to mentor, teach, train, guide umpires from the Division I level all the way down to junior college baseball. Big, huge platform that I have. And I don't take it lightly. I take it very seriously. And I love working with conference administrators, conference coordinators, our baseball umpire staff, George Drocious, our national coordinator, and all the great people at the NCAA. It's truly a blessing. And I got a big platform and a lot of ears and eyes on me. So I take it very seriously. And looking forward to expanding the role as much as I possibly can into the futures. I think that's it in a nutshell as far as my career and experience. 31 years going into this year for me. And I'm excited about the future and what it holds and what other opportunities could be down the road. So that's kind of my career.
That's awesome. No, that, as you were talking, I was thinking a couple of things. First of all, this podcast is about opportunity, and
yes,
your whole career has been opportunity after the other and being able to seize those. But I think as I was listening, kind of my favorite part of that was how you got kind of discovered. And it's so hard sometimes to impart on high school officials about you never know who's watching and you never know where that's going to be. And it could be in an 8th grade baseball game or a freshman baseball game. And I think keeping that mindfulness as officials that there could be people at a game where you're not expecting eyes to be on you. So for a couple of reasons, that's important. One, you need to be, make sure you're taking care of business all the time because you don't know who's watching you, but also you don't know if there's somebody who's kind of scouting or that has an affiliation with the sport that you're working and can recommend you, those sorts of things. So I love that story because I think that it really is a real life example of how you got to where you are and how other people could kind of start on that path. So that was I really appreciated that.
Yes. Yeah. It might end up being an answer to one of your questions to me. So
Sounds good. So you talked a lot about your on-field experience and now in the role of administrator, and you touched on a little bit about how you were able to do kind of both at the same time, and it helped a little with that transition. But what really in that transition was the hardest part of going from an active on-field umpire to really going into a more administrative role? And then what do you miss? What do you miss about being an on-field umpire?
The thing that I miss is the camaraderie, the banter, if you will, on spending a weekend with brothers and sisters. That's the biggest thing that I miss. There's nothing to replace getting on a plane, headed to a destination, a campus or whatnot, and being there with two other people and working a collegiate baseball game. A lot of fun that's involved in there, a lot of catching up. You get invested in their families and what's going on with them back at their respective homes and what they're doing, with their jobs or careers. You just get to know them on the personal level. Sometimes you get to experience, the city that you're in and maybe the cuisine or, historical things that are there. So I miss that because I don't travel as much in this role, which is okay because part of taking this role was to be home a little bit more, to be around that 15-year-old that I got that's got all this personality and vigor that he displays right now. So I don't get to travel as much. So that's one of the biggest things that I miss is just that interaction with my fellow officials and all that good stuff. But I still get the calls and I get fulfillment a little bit by being in Omaha for the 2 weeks. Part of my responsibility with the NCAA is to be there for the 2 weeks and help administer, our College World Series. I get to kind of go back because, we get that locker room feel and we go out and have dinners or, we go out and have an adult beverage or something and I get that for 2 weeks. So that kind of gets me through that little transition. But, field, off field, there's still some similarities in there as an on-field official and as a guy that, my last probably 5 or 6 years, I was a crew chief majority of the time working for any of the conferences that I worked for. There's a lot of administrative roles inside of the crew chief responsibility that maybe a lot of people don't realize. Logistics and coordinating the crew and the travel and arriving at the destination and all that. And then, even now in the modern era now, these guys have got so much responsibility and a lot of logistics and a lot of administration. You're talking about going and getting sound checks. You're talking about making sure replay is up and going and you're gotten all the cameras are ready to go. Announcements are starting to take place at in different conferences, which I love, absolutely love. We can talk about that if you want to too, which I think is so necessary. Imagine watching a football game and not knowing what the penalty was. It'd be tremendously awkward, right? Why not baseball? So, okay. But those guys have a lot of administrative roles that they have to do. Foreign substance is a new thing that's coming, and the rosin bag and how we're going to expedite that. That's a pre-game responsibility that these guys got to have. So that's probably the most challenging thing for umpires. But for me, being in that role for the 5 or 6 years lent me a lot of really good, skin the knee, cut the teeth type of experience. So that transition when I went full administrative role into what I'm doing now at a conference level, and then obviously for the NCAA, has been tremendous asset for me in my acceleration through being the best leader I could be right now.
That's awesome. So we're going to dive right into that topic of the day of opportunities. So as I had mentioned kind of in the lead-in, sports officials have more opportunity today than they've probably ever had before. Sport continues to grow. There's more, multiple leagues in every sport. So there's definitely opportunity for officials. So what are some of the opportunities that you think new officials should really look forward to build that solid foundation for the start of their officiating resume?
Well, I'm so happy that that's one of the bullet points in the topics that you're asking me, because we started a project after. So I guess one of the resume things that I didn't share with you that I'll kind of give this segue to is in 2010, I also started an umpire training academy, school, camp, whatever you want to call it, called Black and Blue Umpire Camps. And it ran through 2021. So a nice 11-year run with that. And that was all about training, educating, teaching, giving people opportunities to network and get around the decision makers and try out, if you will, and learn and all that good stuff. That went away in 2021, like I mentioned. And then we spun that off into Black and Blue Umpire Association, where we got into the platform of taking our collegiate kind of coordinating space into comp baseball world space, where we reside right now with BBUA. And BBUA started really small, where we were only really in Southern California. We did a little bit in Northern California, and we probably did, I don't know, 2,500, maybe 3,000 assigned games in a calendar year. And, we try to do it as professionally as we possibly could. And it just kind of grew each year, each month, into where we would get other organizations and they would hear about what we're doing, or an official that was working for us would share with the tournament organization, hey, you need to think of this Black and Blue Umpire Association. They do a really great job. They're in the space of California and blah, blah, blah. Well, let's bring it forward. I think we started that in 2017, still when BBUC was going. And when I was doing all the coordinating, I was still on the field. So we had a lot of moving parts, which I love. I love to be busy. And where it's turned into now, where we're probably somewhere in the 11,000 to 12,000 game space. And I have 6 people that work for me. I have 3 or 4 assigners. I have a guy that's dedicated to finance and payroll. We're bringing somebody along as a trainer, observer, advisor for this year for Northern California. And we have utilized this opportunity. We teamed up with the largest Northern California tournament organization called NCTB. They're based out of the Bay Area, and they play their games in Sunnyvale, California. They got a 10-field complex in Sunnyvale right next to where the 49ers play. And we're a solid 47 weekends a year.
Wow.
And it's insane. It's on steroids. And
it sounds like it.
Yeah, it's crazy. So when you talk about opportunity, okay, I can share with you that young officials, new officials have a ton of opportunities. And I think that they need to look at those opportunities in the rec ball space. I think they need to look at those opportunities in the grammar school space. And I think they need to look at the opportunities specifically in the comp baseball world. Most of the time, and I know this for a fact because I got a great friend that resides on a couple different places, but runs one of the largest in the country comp baseball organizations in Indiana, ran by really top-notch people that know what the hell they're doing. Okay. And you get involved with those people to where you can get the mentoring, the guidance, the leadership, the fine points, the professionalism, the accountability, the articulation, all of those things inside of an organization. And you can do that in a comp baseball space, which the comp baseball space, just a little bit different than the rec ball space. The rec ball space is really for kind of novice players, coaches, still a great space to cut your teeth. Comp baseball space takes on a little bit more just because we're paying people to coach and we're paying for our kids to play and we're paying for tournaments and all those things. So it takes on this added heightenedness, this added awareness, if you will, of the games and the outcomes of the games. And it's a really great space to learn and to develop. And we have a ton of young people in their 20s that work for us that we are keeping really great tabs on. And our whole goal is do we have people in this space that are going to be lifer comp baseball umpires? Yes, we need them, right? Those are necessities, have to have them just to fulfill the games and the requirements that we have in the assignments. But we're also in that space to identify and accelerate and extend people that are displaying characteristics that can work at the high school level, that can then go and work at the lower levels of college baseball, junior college, NAIA, D3, and find out where their ceiling is at and help them through the progress of their careers. So I know this just for me speaking, my vested interest in all of this and to getting into all of these spaces is I've got this ceiling up here that I'm part of the gatekeeper in making sure that we have our best folks that officiate our championship for the NCAA. So if I'm not doing my part at the infancy stage. And I say infancy, meaning newbies, new officials, green. And that is in that rec ball, comp baseball space, in helping them figure out, like, what's this all about? What does this mean to be an official, to be an umpire, and letting them know the realities of it. Like, it's not all sugarcane and, and cupcakes.
No, it is not.
and puffy clouds. It can be dicey sometimes. And if we're not realistic in how we're sharing with these young people, like, you're going to be challenged. You're going to have to get into a space of conflict management. You're going to have to embrace being uncomfortable, because we live in a digital world. These kids, they live off of these devices, right?
Sure do.
And the communication is through thumbs. It's not through one-on-one interaction with an adult. Okay. So if we're not setting them up for the realisms of officiating or umpiring, we're missing the boat, and we're going to lose them faster than we gain them. And so with BBUA, we take that opportunity, especially with people that we identify that got opportunities to ascend and to do better things than just live in the comp baseball space. And we teach them and we mentor them and we groom them that there's opportunities here. And you're lucky that you're working for this organization, because I know a guy that can help you in that process.
I think that's so critical what you said, because I think it's easy at any level to assume that the recruitment and development of officials is really somebody else's problem. You see it all the time where it's just, we have this problem, but someone else needs to solve that for us. So the fact that you're as involved at every level as you are, that's a testament to what you're doing. And I know from our kind of how we met was through the Black and Blue umpires training, and the officials that were in New Mexico when I was there that went to it they raved about it, because it was something that they saw that truly made them better. And there were people at those camps who had a vested interest in, where do you want to go, and asking them what their goals were and really giving them the tools to be able to get there. If you want to call high school forever, that's great. Trust me, that's awesome for us if you want to call high school forever. But also, we have to look at people and realize that there's other folks who have other aspirations and they want to go on and do college, or they want to be a professional umpire. So let's help them. Like, instead of always being so territorial about, these are all our people in our space, there's got to be more interaction. You and I have talked about it before about how do we work together, because all of our pools are reliant on everybody else's. So we can't do this alone. And I think that the involvement of individuals at the pro level, at the collegiate level, at the high school level, we all have to start out in those infancy stages and really help people along and give them that roadmap, because they don't know what they don't know, and they don't know how to get started or how to get to the next level. So we've got to be really explicit about explaining that to them, instead of just going, all right, well, here's your gear, go work a game. We're setting them up for failure if we're not kind of taking them by the hand and helping them through as best as we can.
Dana, I have a profound sense of responsibility, I feel, because of all the spaces that I interact with, and knowing that I am challenged to help in the process of putting our best and brightest on the field for 30 days in June. I consciously can't sit by and not feel responsible each and every day to be the best mentor I can possibly be. I have a massive responsibility to do that. And you made a couple of points where people become territorial. They talk about my guys or my people or whatever. And I frown upon that, because they're nobody's people ever. They're part of an organization, and we want them to feel healthy in that space. And we want them to feel like they can interact and they can have opinions and they can bring up topics. I don't know anybody in my inner circle that doesn't want to achieve and do more, whether it's at their job, whether it's making more money, whether it's achieving personal goals, whether it's being a better parent. I don't know anybody that's in my inner circle that stops trying to ascend to be great at something. Or I just choose not to be around them. Maybe that's it. I don't know. But
those just aren't your people.
They're not my people. No, I love being around people that really motivate me. And it's a sense of responsibility that I have to all the people that look up to me for that guidance, for those words of wisdom, for those tips and pointers that I'm able to give them on becoming a better official. I did that this morning. Quick story. We had a gentleman that displayed some behavioral attributes that weren't becoming of our organization in the comp baseball space. And so much that I got letters from coaches and parents on it. And he knew it. He knew it immediately, and he resigned. Immediately resigned. And I don't know if I was necessarily going to fire him. I probably was going to put him in a timeout to kind of learn a little bit. But he voluntarily stepped back and said, you know what? I've not earned the right to be part of your organization anymore. Well, that told me a lot right there. That was 3 months ago. That person reached out to me this morning and said, I've had some time and reflection, and I think I miss it. And I think I'd like to see how I can get back. And now my job is to figure out, one, how do we get this person back? Two, should we have him back? And what does my team think about having him back? Because their opinion is important to me as well. And if we do bring him back, what are we going to ask of him in that solicitation? Like, there's got to be something that he's got to prove to us. Okay.
Absolutely.
And so that's a project that I have after I'm done with this call with you. So I love that stuff. I think that stuff is so important. It's vital. And I'm talking about one person, right? But just think about everybody that's in my role or has a small role in this whole thing as far as getting more people to the table and officiating. That right in there is the fundamental thing that we need to do. And, I look at, like, yes, I've got a vested interest in the comp baseball space. I got a vested interest in the collegiate officiating space. I got a vested interest in our national championship. But here's the other thing that I've got a vested interest in. I got a vested interest in, I want to go watch my son, who's a freshman in high school. He's going to play baseball for his freshman high school baseball team. I want to walk out there each and every time he plays, and I want to see 2 officials on the game. I don't want to see 1. I want to see 2. I have a hand in that. Maybe not directly, but I have a hand in that. And I got a responsibility in that. And that drives me. And I saw it 2 years ago when we went and watched a game. We went and watched some of his buddies who were already in high school, and we're walking up, and I had to listen to my son say, Dad, why is that coach calling pitches behind the mound? And I go, because there's not an umpire today. He's like, Dad, it's a league game. They're like 2 league teams. There's a freshman game. Okay. And I said, because we have a shortage, because we've got people that are not doing what they're supposed to do. And we got people that aren't acting the way that they're supposed to act. And we got people that are just not educating to the best of their ability. And that's why we have a shortage, Logan. And I vowed from that moment that I would work tirelessly to make sure that when that child got his opportunity to go and play baseball for his high school, that he would not be cheated by only 1 official on the field.
Or 2 coaches who are now umpiring.
Right.
That's never good.
No.
So Billy, you've talked quite a bit about opportunity, and I'm thinking about officials like coming from where I am, and how things, New Mexico being a geographically challenged state, there's a lot of states like that where maybe you're just isolated, or maybe you don't have a mentor, or maybe where you are isn't doing a lot of training. So when you're thinking about officials in that predicament, is it possible for those individuals to kind of create their own opportunity to learn and be great and do all of the things that you've been able to and that others have been able to? And if so, kind of how can they make that happen?
So the internet's our friend, right? There's so much information that you could look up. Just search it. Just put in search words, keywords, umpiring, mentors, decision makers, conference coordinators, baseball umpire liaisons, you name it, all those type of things. Look all that stuff up. Also, get in your car and drive to a university. Go to that baseball program. Talk to those people and say, who umpires your games? How do you get those people? Where do they come from? Okay? Go seek that out. Go to your little league and go sit there and watch the game and ask the person that's running the snack bar. I guarantee you they're going to tell you who assigns the umpires. Or they're going to introduce you to the little league president. Go to your high school and go talk to the coach. There is no way that somebody that is new to this cannot figure out who and how and why to get started. There's just no way. There's just too much information on the internet, and you have the ability to go open your mouth and open your ears to find out how we go and we get about getting into this stuff. So I think new umpires have a tremendous advantage versus even back. I mean, look at my organic situation with the guy that's at the
Right.
backstop. I mean, come on, that's unique, right? If I was getting into it now, that's what I would do. Like anything else that I do now that I'm not versed on, I search it up. I go research. I take the time to research. I make my notes. I make a game plan, and I figure out exactly how I'm going to go about the task at hand. How am I going to go about finding out how to get involved in officiating? Whether that's officiating basketball, football, baseball, whatever the sport is. We need them all. We need them all. I'm just in the baseball space. And we need more of you. And we need people that are going to understand that this is a very rewarding advocation. It's a very rewarding side gig. You know, we talk about, I see all these people on TikTok and all these influencers and stuff talking about side gigs. And I'm almost tempted to go, I got one. I got a great one.
It's a pretty good one.
It's a great one. And when I go and I speak to, one of the big things that we're doing now through BBUA is for recruitment is we go and we speak each year to all of the local junior colleges. And we talk to their baseball and we talk to their softball people, specifically their student athletes. Have you people done any research on the chances that you're going to make it to whatever level that's in your head? Like, have you looked at that? Have you looked at the numbers? And I'm not discouraging anybody. I'm really encouraging you. I hope you all make it. But the likelihood of that happening is slim to none. I'm a product of that. I want to be a major league umpire. Then I make it. But that didn't stop me from wanting to be the best that I possibly could be and figure out the next space that I could be the best in. Okay? So we go talk to those people and we challenge them, like, where can you go and earn XYZ amount of dollars and not impact your social life or not impact your studies? And they're blown away after I tell them. They're like, are you serious? You can make that? I'm like, sure.
And I think it's so different now because you and I, 20 years ago, it was always really frowned upon to talk about the money aspect of officiating. It was just, we can't talk about that. But it's okay to be paid for a service.
Yes.
Like, it's okay to talk about that, especially when we're looking at this next generation and talking to them about this side hustle or this side gig and how you can not only make pretty good money as a hobby, but there's a career that could happen from
100%.
it. I mean, and I think that it's not sold to kids enough. They think as a player that their only options when they're done is I'm going to play or I'm going to coach. No one talks about that third team as much as we should. And I think that it's so different now, because I remember when I first started in this business almost 30 years ago, it was, well, you can't say that it's for the money. And we know that the original reason people are getting into it is not because of the money. It's because of the love of sport and wanting to give back and all of that. But it's okay to be paid to do something you love. I mean, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
It's the hook.
It's okay to talk about that.
It's the hook. It
is.
I'll give you a perfect example. So my son just finished his comp baseball career for the most part. And our coach, who I hired, his son used to play. And he is a junior now, I think. Picked up umpiring last year. Okay. Helped him with the process. Got him to the right people. Started off with the Little League, did the Babe Ruth, did the summer series, all this. And then he started working, travel for me and a couple other organizations. This kid is absolutely hooked. And you know what hooked him to begin with? It wasn't the love, which we hope that's the first thing. It was the dollar.
Sure.
But as the dollars rolled in and he got better at it through mentoring, teaching, observing, and all that, the hook now is he can't stop. And he wants to accelerate and go as high as he possibly can. And
it's awesome.
But the money is still the hook, because he goes, well, how much can you make as a Division I umpire? And then you tell him and his light up, and I go, yeah. But then I also say, but there's a process in there. There is a process. And you got to embrace the process, and you can't accelerate it too fast because you'll derail, your end goal. So yes, money needs to be talked about, and we need to be fairly compensated for what we do. We're providing a service. And I think for the most part, at all the different levels, the money is appropriate. I think we could probably argue a couple of different instances, and different platforms could be better, but for the most part, it's good. And you're right. Back when we first met, that was a big oh no, we don't We don't talk about the money. It's the love of
No,
the
we
game.
can't say that.
Yeah. Now it's the love of the game and it's the compensation. That's just where we're at.
Absolutely.
That's the way the world is right now. So
It is.
I think that's okay. And if money is a motivating factor, what's wrong with that? If that gets people
Yeah,
to that
exactly.
gets people to the games, I'm okay with that. Now, once I get them and they're addicted to making the money, now we go, okay, sustainability, you got to work on your craft. You got to get better
That's
at
right.
your craft so you have that sustainability, or we're going to take the money away from you.
Yeah. If you just keep collecting a check and you're not trying, then now we have a problem.
Now we've got a problem.
But you're talking about something that really, I think anybody who knows me is probably sick of me talking about it, but I'm going to talk about it anyway. So you're talking about being able to go online and find information. That's why it's so critical as organizations that we make sure that everything is updated.
Yes.
So nothing is worse than somebody going to the internet and it's that dreaded HTTP 404 error and it's a dead link. And they're like, well, I wanted to do that, but now I don't know where to go. So I talk about a lot from our level at the high school, the High School Federation. If you're a state office, if you're a local association, if you're a trading entity, whatever it is, whatever your role is in officiating, make sure your website is up to date.
Digital presence.
That's where everybody's going.
Yep.
They're all going to the internet. So just make sure your stuff is updated. So thank you for giving me that segue so I could get on my soapbox a little bit, but I'll climb back off of it and we can get back to business.
It's vital. This is the generation that's coming up right now is they all were born with iPhones and all that. They don't
in their hands.
Yes, they don't know anything else.
Crazy.
I mean, aren't you amazed sometimes if you're around kids? I know I've got this 15-year-old and, I'm like watching him going, blit, 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 blit. I'm like, what'd you just do there? I'm like, I didn't know it could do that. He goes, what do you mean you didn't know it could do that? I go, I didn't know the iPhone could do that. And he's like, sure, it can do that. Like, how do you not know that? And I'm like, well, I don't spend as much
I'm always
time.
like, because I'm old. There, people in my office that are half my age. I'm like,
Yes.
if there's something going on with like my phone that I can't figure out, I just
They do it
hand
in 2
it to
seconds.
somebody that's. I'm like, can you make this do something? And it's okay. I'm okay. I admit I know my shortfalls.
Yes.
So you talked a lot about your opportunity in your career and kind of how you got to where you are. Was there any opportunity in your umpiring career that you didn't really take advantage of that now in retrospect you wish you would have?
Yes. Taking the time to enjoy it a little bit more. Taking the time to enjoy it a little bit more and really truly appreciate the opportunities that you have and the people that you get to meet. As we get older, I think for some reason when we get older, reflection happens more, right? I don't know why
Sure
that
does.
is. I guess because our days are ticking. I don't know. Maybe.
I think you're right. Depressing, but right.
Yes, I know. I'm bringing us down now. It was so good. I think reflection on just living in the moment a little bit more and really truly appreciating the opportunity that you have and what you've achieved and the people that you're around and the space that you're able to inhabit for that weekend or that moment. I think I would have taken a little bit more time with that and really truly appreciated the people and the influences that helped me get to that space. I think we live so fast and we try to do so many things. I know I got my hand in the cookie jar and so much stuff. And my wife tells me like, my God, but you asked for it. And I'm like, yeah, nobody put a gun to my head and said, hey, you got to do all these things. I just like to do all these things. I feel compassionate about it. And I like to live with my foot on the gas. And there's going to come a time in the near future where the foot's going to get taken off the gas and I'm not going to do as much or anything at all that's related to baseball or officiating because I had put that time in. And I won't regret that because I've got retrospectiveness now that I'm living in the moment a little bit more now and enjoying it a little bit more now. And maybe the fact that I've got a kid that's in high school and I've got 3.5 years now on the clock where he's in my house and he's gone. And I've got like an adult child, which is completely bizarre. And then I'm going to be looking at 4 walls and Denise and going, what do we do now? So probably the biggest regret. And it's not really a magnitude regret. It's just a slight regret that I would have just taken a little bit more time to been in the moment, been a little more present in the moment and be a little bit more appreciative of my surroundings and the people that I was experiencing those experiences with.
That's a great answer and really great wisdom for people who are just getting started, because I talk to a lot of officials who have, worked national championships
Yeah.
and done all of this stuff. And they're always like, I wish I have soaked it in a little bit more, like really taken a moment when I walked in the facility to just breathe it in and kind of soak in it a little bit. And I think you're right. I think that comes with age, where you learn to appreciate those moments a little bit more and maybe wish that you could go back and appreciate them at that level when you were 20 years younger. So that's a great answer.
I always tell my son, I always show him the video, because I tell him that life is going to fly by, especially these next 4 years with high school. So there's a video of, there's a young man named Adley Rushman who played baseball at Oregon State, who was the number 1 pick. And I don't know what year, maybe 2021-ish or maybe 2020, but he was the number 1 pick of the Baltimore Orioles. His first game as a starter for catcher. Go look that up on YouTube. The young man walks out. The first thing he does is he shakes the umpire's hand. And I want to say the umpire was Angel Hernandez. I'm almost positive it was Angel Hernandez. I don't know that for a fact, but I'm almost positive it was Angel Hernandez. And then the young man takes a second before he puts on his mask and he looks around. He just stands there, and it's maybe 5 or 10 seconds, but he just looks, he takes a complete pirouette and he looks around and he just takes a moment and says, I'm never going to have this first experience ever again. And I just want to soak it in as much as I can. And I share that with Logan as much as I can, because your first day of high school, your first day taking a test, your first day putting on your school's jersey, the first at bat, all those firsts, you're never going to have them again. So just take a moment and absorb it. But I challenge people to look at that. As an official, I'm asking them to watch a player, because I think it epitomizes what you should do, and take it in sometimes.
I wrote that down. We'll make sure that we include that information for the audience, so that way they can check it out too. Because I think
cool.
That's really cool.
It
really
chokes
cool.
me up to this day, because I just, it's such a symbolism of appreciation. Like he's just not taking it for granted. Like, I'm going to experience this every day. No, I'm getting to do this for the first time, for the last time, this moment.
That's really cool. We talk about it at the NFHS a bit. If you've ever been to I'm sure you've been to the NCAA office, so our building is attached to it.
Yep.
And every day I walk over the bridge to the NFHS building, I soak that in, because it's like I get to work here. Like I get to do what I love, work with officials across the country, do the thing that I love most every single day I cross that bridge. And it's the coldest place in all of Indiana. The apex of that bridge is freezing, but you kind of have that moment of looking at the building and going, you know what, this is pretty cool. And I try to remember that every single day. Helps you on the days where maybe you're just feeling a little kind of in a funk, where you just are like, but then you go, yep, this is my life. Like, it's pretty cool. So I think
we have to remember not to get caught up in the minutia of the day to day.
Yep.
And it's very easily done, and I'm guilty of sin most of the time. And sometimes
we all are.
Yep. Sometimes, and I sit here, I'm talking to you from my home office, and my home office is a shrine a little bit. And then I got a regular day job that sits over here to my right. I've got my baseball that sits in front of me here, and I get caught up because it's fast paced. I'm in the food industry, and it's fast paced. It's 7 days a week. It's all day long, all day night. And sometimes I just got to sit back and reflect and go, accomplishments. What did you accomplish today? Did you live the fullest day? Did you live the fullest hour? Did you maximize every potential that you possibly can have? Your symbolism, taking that bridge walk, is fantastic, because that tells you like where I was and now where I'm at, and all the great things that you're doing. I think we have to have self-reflection all the time in order to stay motivated, in order to stay creative too, all the time.
Absolutely. So one of the things, and you've told me about this, but I don't know how many people are aware of this. So the NCAA actually recently started a unique opportunity for high school umpires in the form of a prospect camp. So could you tell us what that is, how it came to be? I know that there's already been one. If you could talk about how it went and really what the future of that camp kind of looks like going forward.
So this is a project that literally started several years ago with several different people. Scott Taylor was a major influence, the former Division national coordinator for the NCAA. Had some discussions with Anthony Holman, who's with the NCAA as well, in trying to figure out whether or not we need to have some kind of, and it's something that George has just wanted to do for a number of years. There's camps and clinics all throughout the United States, throughout the summer and throughout the fall, all ran by really great people and great influencers and decision makers and the likes, and they do all a great job. I think from the NCAA's perspective was that we wanted to try to find a platform that we could create that could identify people throughout the United States that were really good officials, really great human beings that didn't know maybe the trek or the trajectory of getting to collegiate baseball officiating. And so we want to try to create that space for them. And luckily enough for us, the relationships that we have, not only at the NCAA baseball umpire program, but are friends of the program, specifically Tom Honick, who works for Major League Baseball, who's a coordinator of Division I umpires. Okay. Billy McCallum, who is one of our national observers. Their relationships with the folks at Major League Baseball, Rich Riker specifically, was the reason why this camp got off and was able to be expedited in the fall of 2024. And so through mutual coordinations, Ben Browley with the NCAA was huge with this, did a lot of logistics, so much work behind the scenes. We found a home in Vero Beach with the Jackie Robinson Training Center, where I think it just started yesterday or the day before. Their Major League umpire camp just started there. And then, of course, there's the Wendelstadt one that's in Daytona Beach that also goes on through the course of the month of January. But getting back to the NCAA thing, we just felt it was necessary to try to find those individuals that we could get some documentation on and help place in all of the different levels of college baseball and give them this path and kind of watch their progress through the 2025 season. So we solicited a bunch of names from conference coordinators, our D2 and D3 national coordinators, and we came up with this big pool of people. They all had to apply, if you will, and we narrowed it down. We wanted to be manageable. We wanted it to be in the 50 head count range. And I want to say we ended up with 44, 45, somewhere in there. And it was over a course of 5 days. That complex down there, I can't say enough about it. We are actually trying to convince the NCAA that football, basketball, baseball, softball, lacrosse, field hockey, they could all have camps down there. That facility has the ability to host every single one of those entities in having a national collegiate officiating camp with the NCAA. And that's kind of, we're hopefully the benchmark. That's our hope. And we've been told that we will be on a rotational basis of every 2 years of being able to conduct these camps. Softball's going to get the nod next year, which I'm in favor of big time. They have needs just like we do. And I'm looking forward to it. Where I think I'd like to see us improve would be to identify more high school officials. I think we did a decent enough job of it, but in the end, I think we had more people that had collegiate umpiring experience. And I want to get out there and find more of the high school people that would love to get into the collegiate space. And I think working with you, and then obviously your connections with all the different states and all the different associations that reside in all the states will afford us that opportunity to do that. Such a blessing, big price tag. It's a lot to put that on. And I imagine I was thrilled that the NCAA invested. What's the return on investment going to look like? I don't know. I can tell you that I think it will be maybe like a 5-year window. I don't know the amount of people, but the fact that we're doing it, I think is important. The fact that Anthony Holman and Ben Browley listened to us as advocates. I shared with them, I'm a product of the minor league system. Okay, I am. You would look at a guy like myself and others that have come out of the minor league system after 5 to 10 years. They're turnkey ready, for the most part, turnkey ready baseball umpires to work a high level of collegiate baseball, as long as they can transition into the collegiate space and understand that it's a different space than pro baseball, you can do very, very well. And we have tapped into that group of people tremendously. I know when I got in the mid 2000s, there was an influx of minor league guys getting into the collegiate space. Now that Major League Baseball over the last 3-4 years have trimmed down the affiliates. So I think 3 years ago, they trimmed like 42 affiliates down. That affects the umpire pool.
Sure
Okay.
does.
There's less umpires. So there's less umpires coming out of the minor league system. And if we're just going to rely on umpires coming out of the minor league system, we're missing a big, big piece of what we're doing here. They're not all coming out of the minor league systems. Not all umpires that work our championships at the Division I, Division II, and Division III level are or have to be ex-pro umpires. Most of our best officials are not. So we've got to be able to start at, like, we go back to that infancy stage and that grassroots stage and get some documentation on these people and get to know them on a personal level too, because I think that's just as important in figuring out, are these candidates to work our championships at our different levels? And I loved it. I thought it was great. I enjoyed my time. I thought the campers were amazing. And Dana, I will tell you, as a facilitator of camps, like I had, when I started in 2010, we had a lot of great campers. Let's not get it twisted. But we also had a lot of people that didn't know what they were doing. Okay. I go to camps and clinics now, and specifically this prospect one, and I'm blown away at how versed, knowledge, and articulate these people are. They are studies. And I think it goes back to the technology that's out there. It goes back to the information that's out there. It goes back to just people are good studies, and they go watch, they observe, they absorb, and they implement. And I was blown away at the talent of people and the caliber of people. And we had white, black, brown, male, female. We had all of it. And I was impressed by everybody. There anybody that turned me off and I was like, that person creeps me out. Or everybody was just outstanding. And it wasn't fake. It wasn't like, we've got all these NCAA people and all these, decision makers, because we had big time, Division I coordinators. We had the NCAA baseball umpire program. We had people from the NCAA there. We had big time people there. These people were genuine. They were happy to be there. They were enthusiastic about being there. They wanted to learn. They wanted to learn from the best, and they wanted to figure out what the networking piece looked like. So all in all, it was a tremendous project that was a long time in the making, and it was accomplished. And I was just glad to be part of it. I think it's groundbreaking, and I definitely think the NCAA is onto something, and I love it that they're thinking about other sports and that they're thinking about that location, because I got to tell you, it's blown away. It's beautiful down there, and the facilities are amazing. The technology is amazing. The classrooms are insane. The indoor facilities, I mean, if you've got weather, which Florida has weather all the time, just come inside. And you got this full indoor facility that you can do every aspect of training in. And then you go over to where players and coaches do batting practice and stuff, and you got all the training mechanisms inside there, all the data capturing. It's crazy. It's awesome.
That's really exciting. And I agree. I have the opportunity to work with Anthony Holman and Ben Bramley quite a bit. Kudos to the NCAA for making that investment in officiating, because it's necessary at all levels. We've got to put resources toward it for the health of the game. I mean, that's what, at the end of the day, the officials are the guardians of fair play. They are the guardians of the game, and making that investment in them will pay in dividends for years to come. So, kudos to them for getting this off the ground. I'm excited to see where it goes, and kind of the expansion to other sports. That prospect is super exciting as well. So I'll definitely keep an eye out on all of that. And you and I'm sure we'll talk more about it in the future as far as getting high school folks involved.
Yes.
So, as we wrap up, I want to ask you one final question. So we have a mission on the From A to Zebra podcast every week to educate, elevate, and excite our listeners. As part of the education piece, what is something you didn't know about umpiring before you started that you wish you would have known that would really help others in the future?
How much investment you need to take in your education and your learning to really excel at this and be great at it.
That's a great answer.
Very compassionate, passionate, engaging, forward-thinking, excited individuals need to think about officiating a sport. I think people that have the ability to articulate and have the ability to problem solve and have a unique way of problem solving and can live in that conflict management space should really think about officiating. You don't necessarily have to have played the sport. I don't believe in that at all. I know that there's some feel and they talk about that a lot and whatnot, and I get all that, but I don't think it's necessary. I think that individuals with talents and the attributes that I just spoke about have the ability to officiate. And I think more people need to know that when you get in this, there's something that captures your imagination. There's something that captures your emotions. There's something that captures the love. There's something that captures the enthusiasm about officiating a sport. I don't know exactly what it is or what I got hooked on, because when you think about it from the perspective of, when you're playing a sport and you do really well, and sometimes when you don't even do well or don't even win, you still get congratulatories. You get interviewed, you get talked about, you get a write-up in a paper, or you get write-up in an online chat or a blog. Officiating, you don't get a write-up unless you've done something really wrong. We really don't want that. We try to encourage not to have that and really work hard to not have that print. But if you think about it, there's not a lot of congratulatories that go hand in hand with a good job. Okay. You don't get high fives. You don't get attaboys. Sometimes you'll get a nod as you leave the field. Hey, nice job. Or catcher will turn around and say, hey, really good today. Thank you so much. You'll get those. And those are very gratifying. Don't get me wrong. But the best gratification comes, and I mean this, is when you have a moment to reflect after you're done with the game or the series, whatever it is. And you're sitting there and you're having a moment, maybe in silence, or maybe it's just the banter of your crew. And you can reflect on that performance that you just had and go, I wouldn't change a thing. There's no more gratification than you can get from that. There's zero. And I say that because I got to experience a lot of that, but I also got to experience a lot of regret too, which fueled me to want to have that experience of I wouldn't change a thing. And when you get to umpire some of the highest levels, and it doesn't necessarily need to be Omaha or a College World Series or something like that, or a conference tournament. It can be a high school game. It can be a comp baseball game, sitting in your car on your way home, grab a burger and you're just reflecting. I don't care. But my biggest, precious, valuable moments were sitting back in a high pressure situation and knowing that I've got all of my peers watching on TV, and I've got family at home that's watching, and I got all these people that are in the ballpark that are watching, right? And I'm done and I'm so exhausted, but I've got this euphoric feeling that has come over me, like I wouldn't take anything back. I wouldn't change a damn thing about anything that I did, decided, articulated, called. None. Man, I guess that is probably the fuel that lights the fire for most of us. I know for me specifically, and then what encouraged me for the next moment, like I sought that next moment. It wasn't the dollars. It was getting in the moment of being so locked in, so dialed, so in control of everything. Everything is slowed down. Everything is focused. The lens is clear, and I'm just doing my thing as organically as I possibly can do, and it's clicking. And when it's over, there's just this feeling of like, holy cow, that was awesome. And I'm glad it's over, but it's awesome. And you live in the moment, and then you reflect, and then it motivates you to go on to the next thing. So I think for me, sharing those experiences with new umpires or just veterans, look for that moment, seek that moment, get that feeling, because that feeling is what makes us want to be great and not just average. Average is easy. The line is so long for that door. Great has a short line. There's a handful of people that decide to line up for great. And some people bow out. And then you get some others and they come and they stick and look to be knocking on the door of great every single day. And if you can do that, and you're going to be so fulfilled in your life and so fulfilled in everything you do, whether it's business or officiating, playing the sport, whatever it is, it's just, it just captivates you and it just fuels you for the next moment. So for me, I think that would be the biggest telltale for me in explaining why we do this. Because a lot of people, like, you know, to this day, Denise even asks me, like, why do you guys got everything's critical? Nobody says that guy get a great call. They're always critical of it. You know what I mean? And it's like,
True.
It's tough. So it's not an easy thing to do, but it's so damn rewarding. I can't even explain it. It's just so rewarding. And now for me, not being on the field anymore, I've now replaced that with watching people that I've mentor have those moments. And I can tell you right now, I know when they're having them. I can see it, whether I'm in person or I'm watching on TV. And that's gratifying because I know that I had a hand in maybe explaining it or they viewed me doing it. And when they're done, you know, you have that text message or that phone call or it's that in-person thing. Like, you just had a moment, didn't you? And they're like, yeah, you saw that? And I'm like, yeah,
I sure did.
That was awesome. Let's find that again. Right. You know, and that's
the good stuff.
Motivates people and gets everybody pulling on the rope and doing all the good things that we want them to do. So that's my answer on that.
That's a fantastic answer and a really great way to close out an awesome interview and an awesome conversation. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate you taking your time, sharing your wisdom, sharing your passion. I know how much you love this, and I've known you for quite a while, and you're somebody who's always been in the line for great. So I appreciate your commitment to what you do, your payback to the sport. You've just given so much, and I know that you do it because you love it, and it's evident in everything that you do. So Billy Hayes, thank you so much for joining us on From A to Zebra. And for our listeners, don't forget to check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and X for more information about the show. Until next time, thanks everyone.
Be sure to hit that like button, follow, subscribe, and also catch From A to Zebra on Instagram at from_A_2_zebra, Facebook, From A to Zebra Podcast, and on X at From A to Zebra.